All right, glad to have you as we continue the conversation here. Jackie Doyle is an Honest Elections Project Legal Policy Director. It's incredibly important. You know, I'm just sitting here reading. The Michigan Supreme Court sides with Democrats to keep Bobby Kennedy on the ballot in Michigan for no reason. No reason other than the Secretary of State's not required to remove his name, although he's not a candidate. They blather on about democracy and every vote should count, and yet they're demanding in court that a candidate remain on the ballot that's not running. How does that make every vote count? I'm a little bit lost. Plus, the SAVE Act is out there. Jackie Doyle, thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you. It's great to be here.
Glad to have you here. Now, the SAVE Act is something that's out there that would require proof of ID, or proof of citizenship, I should say, before you can cast a ballot in America. And apparently the Republicans, some of them say they'll shut down the government before they'll allow the spending bills to go through because they've attached the SAVE Act. Is that right so far?
I understand that's the current state of play, in Congress, and the SAVE Act really is something that just makes good sense. I mean, we live in a time where we've seen results in Virginia, Texas, and Ohio, where we have clear instances of non-citizens that are registered to vote, and in some instances, casting ballots. You know, how many are casting ballots, I can't say, and that's still likely under investigation in those states, but that's a problem. And the reason that's happening is because federal law, while it requires you to be an American citizen to vote in federal elections, has really been hamstrung by this liberal lawfare that's attacked our federal voter registration laws. And now states are really in a straitjacket when it comes to what can they do to verify citizenship at the voter registration stage.
Well, it all began in 1995 as they began streamlining these processes in California, where it's now fully legal to register online through your motor voter laws. It has quickly, become a poison in California. In 1995 is when Republicans started losing across the board. When all of these laws got changed in California, that's when it all started to change around the country. I mean, we're on the fast track to single party rule, aren't we?
The left is very clear about what their objective is, right? I mean, when you look at something like non-citizens voting in our elections, we have polling that shows 91% of registered voters, and this is bipartisan, do not want non-citizens voting in our elections. But when you look at jurisdictions like New York City or Washington, D.C., they're passing legislation that allows non-citizens to vote in their local elections. And it's not just the left, but it's the mainstream media, right? I mean, the question that's being asked when we look at the SAVE Act is, why are Republicans pushing so hard to require proof of citizenship? When the question should really be, why are we fighting so hard against that, right?
Absolutely. It's remarkable to me that Democrats would say, it's illegal already. They want nothing to do with election security. They want everything to do, there's not a single country in Europe that allows mail-in ballots. Yet Democrats will tell you how safe it is. Drop boxes for ballots in Europe? Not one. Not one. And in most places in Europe, absentee voting isn't even allowed. I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you're in the hospital and your femur is sticking out of your leg, they don't care. You don't get a chance to vote. That's the way it is, right? Where am I wrong?
No, and voter ID is another issue, right? I mean, there are many countries that have elections. They require voter ID. The United States does not, always require that. And so
I think every country, we might be the only one, Jackie, that doesn't require voter ID. It's a remarkable thing. The world's leading democracy, this republic of ours, is the only place that doesn't require voter ID anymore. It's a terrible thing. It really is.
Yes, and like I said, when you look at what the public wants, our polling shows, we're in the 80-90 percentile that the public wants voter ID. Those are common sense measures. The left and the mainstream media are just fully against those things. Common sense election integrity measures that give them confidence in the results of an election, right? That's what everybody wants, so that no matter who wins and who loses, we can walk away from the election and we can say, I'm confident that it was done correctly and that the rules were followed.
Yeah. If it's overwhelming, though, the vote, they have a hard time dealing with it. Here's the thing. After the election fiasco of the year 2000, you might have been a little young to remember that, but after that fiasco, Florida changed its laws. Florida cleaned up its act. And after Florida made its elections clean, transparent, and run well, Florida became a red state. Same is true in Ohio, North Carolina, Iowa. All of these states became more red when people were allowed to vote the way they wanted to vote and there was no games being played. That's the fear of the Democrats. If you allow clean elections, Republicans win a lot more than they did previously. And that's the problem they face, isn't it?
The issue that we have is that, eroding these safeguards, right? We want to have as many safeguards in place to ensure that every lawful ballot gets counted. And that starts with voter registration. And that's why the SAVE Act is so important, because, in order for it to be a lawfully cast ballot, the voter has to have been eligible. And we won't know that unless those efforts are being properly done and if the laws are enabling us to do that. So the SAVE Act will allow states to require that proof of citizenship. It's going to require agencies to provide information to states that right now is very inaccessible to the states, to even to be able to verify citizenship, on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. Here's what I say, folks. I'm going to vote early for the first time, and I'm going to put it in a drop box, as frightening as that is. But the only way to get our hands back on the steering wheel is to play by the Democrat rules and beat them at their own game. And once we do that, then we can move forward. Jackie Doyle, Honest Elections Project Legal Policy Director, I greatly appreciate you being here. Big debate tonight. We'll see where it all leads, and then we'll see what happens in November. But thank you for the time.
All right, thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. Listen, you can follow me on Twitter, and I encourage you to do so. Please do. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Rumble. And help support this program by becoming a paid subscriber on Substack. The Steve Gruber Show, you can directly help us every day here by becoming a paid subscriber on Substack. Follow us everywhere and grow the movement, all right? I'll take a break and be right back.